The Cleveland Cavaliers were quite easily the most disappointing team in the league for me in this previous season, not because they were not a pretty good regular season team, because they indeed were, but because they just got destroyed by the Knicks in round one in a series that they were pretty heavily favored in. Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second. It makes a massive difference in how this video performs in the YouTube algorithm. Now, I will say just off of the top that to be fair to them, it's not as though it was like people expected it to be a landslide victory for the Cavaliers, while almost, I would say probably like, I don't know, 70-80% of people picked the Cavaliers to win this series. That doesn't mean they necessarily expected it to be like a wash. I know when I made the prediction, I think I said Cavs in 6, maybe 7. The Knicks obviously had a pretty decent matchup, and I didn't think that they were going to be a cakewalk by any means. But I did truly feel as though the Cavaliers at least were supposed to be a team entirely in a tier above the New York Knicks. If I was going to make a tier list of NBA teams, you know, I regularly talk about how there's kind of like 2 tiers of contenders for me. There's like the true top dogs, like this year, that being the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Nuggets. And then there are teams like the Lakers or the Suns, or I guess the Miami Heat as well, where it's like, yes, they could absolutely contend for it, but they're also, you know, they feel like a step below, right? And I felt like the Cavaliers were in that tier, and then the Knicks were in the solid to pretty good playoff team tier, but absolutely not a contender, which, you know, I think that was a valid place to consider them because they obviously lost to the Miami Heat in round 2 and rather easily as well. Obviously, there were moments where they looked quite good, primarily because of Josh Hart, not trying to take credit away from the Knicks. I actually really started to like that Knicks team the moment that Josh Hart was there, so shout out to him for that. But that aside, they got destroyed and they looked bad, and pretty much everybody looked bad. Donovan Mitchell had a lot of rough moments, and in particular, Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen was rough. Jarrett Allen famously had the quote of "the lights were brighter than expected" after playing his first playoff game. I believe it was his first playoff game, right? Maybe he played with the Nets? I can't recall. But he and Evan Mobley kind of got bitched by Mitchell Robinson. And Mitchell Robinson isn't that great, so it's not really the type of player you want to get bitched by. So they really disappointed me last year. And I do think they had a solid offseason. I think the additions on the wing that they added were great because that's obviously their biggest weakness. They have 2 really good big men and 2 really good guards. And then the small forward spot was like, I don't know, Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade, what's his name? The Karis LeVert. Just not a lot of solid, reliable options, really. Guys who are super inconsistent and not exactly reliable outside threats, but Max Struss, for example, could definitely be a very big outside threat. Georges Niang is primarily a stretch forward. I like those additions, and I think it will improve the team. And I gotta say that this Cavaliers team last year, the reason that they disappointed me so much is they were one of my favorite teams in the league. I was already big on the Cavs before Donovan Mitchell got there, and then when Mitchell got there, I got really big on the Cavs. Darius Garland, I still think, is one of the most significantly underrated players in the entire league. I don't think a lot of people truly appreciate just how insanely skilled that guy is. I do wish his wiring made him a little bit more aggressive. He's definitely aggressive enough, but you know, I think he has the jump shot. I think he has the ability to manipulate the defense for himself and his teammates to a degree where he could be like, I don't want to say Steve Nash level good, but I don't know, maybe. He's quite the talented facilitator, quite the talented creator. Obviously, he has a small frame, so sometimes he can't be the most impactful slasher in the world, but at least in terms of pull-ups from 3, from mid-range, just absolutely lights out. Donovan Mitchell is a player that I've liked for quite a bit, and I liked him in Utah. He was really the only thing that made Utah worth watching. But not that the rest of the Jazz were bad, but that Donovan Mitchell was just the only player that was really interesting to watch. I don't know if you guys are big Jay Crowder fans, but so Mitchell being there made me like them a lot. And I really liked the double big man duo. In fact, I believe alongside Alex Hoops, we made a video talking about how we thought that might actually be one of the NBA's next evolutions, which in retrospect is more of a, I guess, de-evolution, like going back to the way that things were, because double bigs, like true big men, guys who both could really be centers, that's not a thing that teams really do anymore because of floor spacing, because of positional versatility. It's just not really something that's emphasized. But Evan Mobley is a generational defensive talent, capable of defending the perimeter well. Jarrett Allen moves his feet well on top of that. So they were able to make that work without, having slow-footed big issues. But offensively speaking, it has its issues, and it probably always will, because I'm not all that sure that Evan Mobley nor Jarrett Allen are really going to develop a reliable three ball. And even if they did, I don't think either of them would become primarily outside threats. Like, that's where they get most of their work done. So one way or the other, on offense, you're going to be dealing with two big men inside the three-point line, and that makes your spacing a little bit awkward. It makes it more difficult for guys like Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell to get downhill, and that's kind of what ultimately hurt them in that Knicks series. Is the spacing was a little bit awkward. Outside of Mitchell and Garland, there's really not a great outside threat on the team. There is now, but there wasn't then. And they would just run into each other. They would try to get in the paint, and they would just be too crowded to find a real opportunity. The Knicks would force turnovers quite a bit, and it was not comfortable. The offense looked like it was flustered the entire time. And the Knicks have some solid defense. They have some pretty good defense at times, but I think they were able to exploit the weaknesses within the Cavaliers offensive system to a degree that really just concerns me for the future of the Cavs. And a lot of this is predicated on Evan Mobley. If Evan Mobley became a real scoring threat, not just with the outside jumper, but just in general being like a real threatening offensive player inside the three-point line or out, that would make a huge world of difference. And obviously there's a lot of positive stuff projected onto Evan Mobley coming into the league, but I'm just a little afraid that the offensive side of the ball is an area where he's just not going to be elite. He definitely has shown signs of being a pretty polished offensive player, more so than I think some would give credit. I remember in his rookie year, he actually shot like 40-something% on pull-up mid-range shots, which is below league average by a little bit, but for a rookie big man, that's pretty impressive. And I'm talking particularly like off of the dribble mid-range shots. So I think the mid-range game could be a thing, and then he can be a play finisher around the rim, but he's not really a post-up option. He's not an outside option. He's not somebody you give the ball and say, go to work. I just don't know. And then when it comes down to their offense being entirely predicated on the guard play, well, you don't have any versatility in your offense, really. It's perimeter shot creation after perimeter shot creation after perimeter shot creation. And to many extents, the Cavaliers offense and defense kind of exist on these extremes, where it's the Cavs offense where it's like, okay, the guards are doing everything and the bigs are just there to finish plays. And on defense, the bigs are doing everything on defense and the guards are just pretty fucking useless. That was another big area in that Knicks series where Jalen Brunson was just absolutely cooking, but there would be times where Evan Mobley would switch on to Jalen Brunson, and that would be a better defensive possession for the Cavaliers than Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland on him. And that's not good. It's not good that your power forward's a better perimeter defender than your guards. That's just not an ideal circumstance. So because they exist on these massive extremes, I feel like there's always going to be things that are super exploitable about them. And when I'm just looking at the top dog contenders in the league, I feel like the Cavaliers just don't have a fucking chance. And, maybe they could be a lot better than they were last year. Again, I think they addressed the small forward spot pretty well. But yeah, it's not as great as I'd like them to be, for sure. So there's my thoughts on the Cavs, I guess. Probably expecting a lot more of the same for them this year. And there's rumors that Donovan Mitchell might want out sooner rather than later. So that's not good, but I won't really speculate on that too much now. But yeah, that's it. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.